Hey guys, it's Sarah from Book Nerds and Fangirls, and today I'm going to review the second episode of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend in the second season. And this one actually really made me happy, coming down from a very disappointing episode of The Vampire Diaries. In my opinion, I really needed an episode to cheer me up, and Crazy Ex-Girlfriend is really meeting my expectations for this season. It's actually exceeding my expectations for this season, because here I thought Crazy Ex-Girlfriend was just gonna be really horrible this season, and I thought Vampire Diaries would be really epic, and turns out the two are switched. My favorite show is disappointing me, and this show is really getting me up there. So I watch Vampire Diaries first now, and Crazy Ex-Girlfriend last, because I need something to get my mind of the awful it's not an awful season, the mediocre season that I'm watching now, Vampire Diaries, and I really appreciate Crazy Ex-Girlfriend for doing this. So I thought I'd start off with that. I really wish that comedy shows would really act like Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, because it's so new and refreshing, and I've never really seen a comedy show that makes me really happy, but this one does. So I'm gonna start off by saying I'm not really sure how this episode went, because this episode I watched a day or two ago. So I got all these notes. So I'm going to talk about the bulletin points that I have. So first off, I admire Greg for getting into AA to begin with. He's trying to get better, and I really enjoy this storyline of Greg's alcoholism. They're putting it in a much lighter tone than more drama shows would have done about alcoholism, but it's still making it to where it's serious and stretching on the fact that this is not an okay issue to have that people need help with it. And I really do love how they're throwing in serious moments with comedy, because they have a really funny song about his drinking that makes it a serious topic, but one you could actually not feel the very lingering feelings of like you would a drama show. So of course we have Josh and Rebecca. And of course Rebecca is still trying too hard when it comes to Josh. I think this is where she is cooking for Josh, where she is cooking him a Jewish dish, as she would like to call it. It's Koodle Noodle, I think it was, and that actually made me really laugh. The Koodle Noodle. So she's making this dish for him, and he comes back from karate practice, and of course she's trying really hard to impress him. She gives him this dinner that she just made, because of course he's always there, so he's technically living here. He won't admit that he's living there. He's only using her for backup until he finds a new place, which I really hate boyfriends who are mooches. I've had them before. It's not cool, honestly. And of course she's trying really hard with him. She's joking about them living together, getting married, having kids stuff like women always joke about there, and that's a pretty entertaining thing to watch, because it's the thoughts that all us girls have at least one point during a relationship, and I love how refreshing and new and honest that this season is being, because it totally blows me out of the water how honest this season is. It's a little, like first season, of course, defied reality in some moments, but this is reality. This show is so real that I could swear at some parts of my life, too. Not that I would chase my ex-boyfriend around, because I'm engaged and they don't matter, but come on. We've all been there before. So of course she's trying too hard. She made him this food. He's already ate. And so she's like, oh no, it's fine. Fine. And she's trying to find something that they could do together as a couple because they're not really spending a lot of time together as a couple. So of course she's all saying, what are you interested in? And she's all like, oh, what if we just do this? Okay, sorry, I have plans that day. And she's like, oh, what are you doing? And of course he mentions a ping pong tournament. And she's all like, oh, that's great. I love ping pong. Just to spend time with him. And truth is, she really sucks at ping pong. So that was pretty funny. Pretty funny. I would like to mention that I miss the old theme song, because that old theme song really hits the feels of this show. It really explained the show a lot better. This new song, it doesn't really sit well with me, but I guess I'll get used to it. Eventually. So of course, Paula is applying to law school. She wants Rebecca to write her a letter of recommendation. I believe it is. It's one letter. I really like their relationship because they're just like the best besties ever. I love that Rebecca would actually willingly do this for Paula. I was afraid that she wouldn't write this letter. Of course, I would think that she would have forgot about it. And Paula would have been really mad at her. But they actually did a few twists to this one that I thought would have gone differently, and I liked that. So they do this song called Maybe This Dream. And I have to say, her song is so relatable to girls because it shows that girls could have difficult lives too. It's not just men. It explains the problem with girls today in society and all we have to go through and how we're judged and stuff, and I really like it. I really like it. And oh my god, the vibrator part that she sang just made me die. It was die of laughter. It was it's kind of like when you're almost about to climax and your vibrator goes out, and I'm like, oh my god, did I just hear that in a song? That's like so funny. Of course, the whole I have to pee and diarrhea part, and I'm like, oh my god, that's just so some parts are relatable, some parts are not relatable for me personally, but it's relatable in the way that someone somewhere has the same problem, and I really like that. So of course Rebecca is trying to get into ping pong, trying to learn it. So a little kid is teaching her how to do ping pong, and of course he's giving her life advice, which I find really funny that a little kid has to give Rebecca love life advice. And he said, if this guy really likes you, he wouldn't care if you're into the same things as he is. You don't have to lie to a guy to make him like you, and if you have to lie to this guy to get him to spend time with you, then he's really not the relationship you're really trying to look for. And Rebecca's all like, I'm not taking life advice from you. I'm trying to learn how to play ping pong. Ping pong. I don't. Oh yeah, and of course in this episode, Greg goes back to work at the bar, which I think is a very questioning. Well, I don't think it's a bar as much as it is a sports diner or something. I can't remember where he works at. I think he works at a pub, is what it's called. So Greg goes back to work. He just wants things to be normal. He wants people to act normal around him, even though he's an alcoholic. He just wants to go back to his normal life, minus the alcohol. And this is where I find this hilarious, because his boss just shouts out, okay, everyone, Greg wants to feel normal. Act normal. Don't mention anything about the alcoholism or anything, got it? And I'm all like, oh, poor Craig. So here we are. Greg invites all his friends. I can't remember who all the friends are in the specific group, but I like that they're getting mentioned more often now because they were kind of like side characters in the first season. But I really enjoyed them during this episode. So of course Josh feels really guilty about what he's done to Greg, and I actually really admire Josh for actually feeling guilty about what he's doing with Rebecca. That shows that he's actually really not justifying what they're doing. He's really not into it as much as he thought he was. But I totally like that he feels guilty. And then and of course Greg is talking about his alcoholism, coming out to his friends that he's an alcoholic, and then they're like, dude, we already knew that you were an alcoholic. It's kind of like really obvious that you're an alcoholic, and we're really glad that you're fixing this problem, yada yada. And of course, Greg doesn't think that they really understand about his alcoholism. They give him 3 beers. He gives them all beers, and he has a soda or something, and he's like, okay, let me explain to you what it feels like for me, what it's like to be me and be drunk. So we have Greg singing again, and I love Santiago's singing. It's like, my God, this man could sing. So we have, I can't remember what this song is called. I wrote it down as I Peed My Pants, but I'm pretty sure it's not that. I think it's actually called Greg's drinking song. Actually, of course he's talking about peeing his pants, and I think the song is a really, really interesting way to approach alcoholism and all the things he did. And it's a really interesting approach. He's explaining these different things that he's done while he's drunk, like peeing his pants, getting on the phone and calling his boss an ass. And of course he's so drunk that his boss doesn't believe him. And he's talking about having sex with inanimate objects like these guys' cars or this bush. And I'm like, oh my God. Greg's song is like a very interesting approach to some things that could happen to you when you're an alcoholic. So we cut to a scene with Josh and his friend who's a priest or a preacher, or I can't remember what he is. So he's, of course, talking to this guy, and he's like, no. This guy tells him, well, it's a very good thing that you didn't tell Craig because he's an alcoholic, and I don't think it's the right moment to tell him that you're screwing his ex-girlfriend, because that's not going to be helpful to him. So we cut to a scene because we notice that Greg's there, and this is between Greg and Heather, and he's sitting with Heather, and for whatever reason, because in this 12-step program, they have this thing where you have to apologize for things you've done wrong to another person while you were drunk. You're drunk, and instead of apologizing for breaking your heart and going to Rebecca or anything like that, he apologizes for stealing her french fries, and I just thought, okay, so he's apologizing for french fries, and Heather's like, okay, I'll take that apology, and I'll replace it with the one for screwing me over with Rebecca. And I like their relationship. I really love Heather and Greg's relationship, and now I'm climbing more towards them as a couple. Because at first I really didn't like it because it was so sudden and out of the blue. That I'm just like, okay, no, this isn't working. But now that we're actually getting real moments of them, I really actually admire that. That they're actually making an effort to make me like them again. So, of course, Josh comes up to him, and he tells Greg about him and Rebecca, because of course he feels guilty about it, so he tells Greg, and he won't stop talking about it. It's like, okay, fine, you slept with my ex-girlfriend once, that's fine. So he's like, actually, it was more than, like, maybe 10 or 20 times, and here's Greg, just, like, trying to compose himself, trying not to let his anger get the best of him, because that's when he feels the need to drink. And then Heather's reaction totally is mine, because Heather is all going like, shut up, just shut up, stop talking. And that's my, like, her reaction is my reaction, and I'm like, Josh, you can shut the fuck up now. Thank you. And of course, Greg, at this moment, really acts mature about it. He's all like, okay, you and Rebecca are together, fine, I get it. I was a shitty boyfriend to her when I was her boyfriend, and I'm glad that you can make her happy. As long as she's happy, I'm happy, and as long as you're happy, I'm happy, and I'm happy for you guys. And I'm like, okay, that's really mature and really honest. But then, whenever he tells Heather he has 2 other shifts to do, I realize that he's not really actually okay with this. So what he does is he grabs a glass, he grabs a bottle, we think he's gonna drink again, and instead, he ends up hitting a wall. Well, instead, because it's something to feel besides the need to drink. It's something to get your anger out besides drinking, and that was actually really clever of him to do. And of course, Rebecca. Okay, so we flash to Rebecca trying to play ping pong, and of course, Daryl instead has offered to write Paula her letter of recommendation instead of Rebecca because, he thinks that he can write her one, and sorry, moment, tired, it happens. So he writes her letter of recommendation, and of course he's trying to slide in his letter of recommendation after she's already rejected his recommendation and saying that Rebecca is going to write her one instead. And so she shoves her. He's trying to shove his letter of recommendation to Paula without Rebecca noticing. And of course Rebecca notices. And during this ping pong thing, she's mentioning Game of Thrones, which I think is really funny. Really funny. She says a Game of Thrones quote, and I can't remember what it is. What it is. I think it's Lannisters always keep their promises. And she's like, okay, don't tell me, I'm only like 2 episodes in. And then, of course, Daryl being Daryl is like, Rebecca says something about his letter of recommendation, and instead Daryl tells her Game of Thrones spoilers. He's like, Ned dies in the first season, by the way. Oh, and don't get so attached to this character either. And she's like, oh, you just didn't give me spoilers. And he's like, oh, yes, I did. And I'm like, life. So we get into Rebecca practicing ping pong with this boy that she's hired. And that outfit, though, what was up with that outfit? Because, and then she's explaining what she thinks Josh is gonna do, but she's doing it in song form, and this has got to be one of my favorite new songs this season. Because it's called Ping Pong Girl, and it's got that really boy bandish feel to it. And at first, I didn't like a boy band full of Joshes. Joshes was one of my least favorite ones, but I gotta admit that this one was really, really good. And it was really funny, too. Like these quotes and the scene. It was just the perfect song. It reminded me of the Sexy Getting Ready song in the way of how much I really loved it. Loved it. And that song just killed it. Like, this episode just killed it with songs. So we flash to Paula, and she's talking with her husband about Rebecca and the letter of recommendation. And she is like, I know Rebecca is gonna write it for me because she told me she would. And I agree with Paula's husband in the way he said, okay, she owes this to you to do this. You have been with her through thick and thin. She's your best friend, and you're her best friend. And with all the shenanigans that she's done, you helped her get out of, you deserve this one letter recommendation, and of course, Paula gets into maybe the thought of her in law school just really makes Rebecca think she's gonna laugh at her. It makes her think that Rebecca's not totally into this idea, and her husband being her husband. I'm really appreciating Paula and her husband's relationship like I didn't in the first season. I think this season is really focusing on the relationships between these people instead of setting up the story. They're focusing on the relationships this season, and I really love that. It's really fresh and new to focus on your characters while still having a good storyline going on with it. So of course he says it's not silly, it's not stupid. This is what you want to do. This is your dream. And of course you should go for it. You shouldn't care what other people think about you. Because in the end of the day, what you really matters is yourself. So I liked that. So we come back, and it's shown that Greg did not go to his Alcohol Anonymous meeting. And that really made me sad because I think he was out drinking at that point, because I thought they were going to go with that. So of course we're at the ping pong tournament. Rebecca's doing really bad at it, or at least halfway decent. Of course the little kid is kicking ass at that tournament, and I just really love it. Really loved it. And of course the other two guys tell Josh that they invited Craig to this, and they were concerned that he wasn't there yet. So Josh tells Rebecca that he told Craig about them. One moment. That he told Craig about them. And of course Rebecca is concerned for Craig because Josh tells her, well, I think he went off the wagon again, and she's like, okay, I'm panicking, I can't be here, I have to go find Craig, which really makes me think that Rebecca still cares about Craig, which I really loved. Come to this scene, this really amazing scene between Rebecca and Greg that still makes me have the feels for Greg and Rebecca as a couple. Like, I said my ship wouldn't sink, and it seems like it still hasn't sunk yet. It's not like it's dead yet, and this was really a turning point for those two. But one little comment I have to make about this is during their scene, it looks like Rebecca's hair was blue when the water reflected off her, right? And that's really weird. So we get to this conversation between Rebecca and Greg by the duck pond, is what Rebecca called it later. But we get to this conversation. It's a really sweet conversation about his alcoholism and how she really thought that he was out drinking and other stuff. And he's like, I thought about it, but then I punched a wall, and it really made me feel better. It really got me to thinking. So he's mentioning his alcoholism to her, and they're really having a conversation about what happened between them at the wedding that night. And she admits to him. So she tells him, I know that you know about me and Josh. I really wish that I had told you. told you and not him because I think you would have took it better from me, and I'm really sorry I didn't tell you, but, and then we get to this conversation about the wedding, but I really digged you at this wedding, and I really thought I liked you, and I really thought you could have been the one. The one, because I really felt a strong connection between us, and then the wedding happened, and you ignored me, and you treated me like trash, and there was Josh, and it just seemed to happen. Seemed to happen. It made me really think that Rebecca's apology is more genuine than Josh's was. And I really like that Rebecca genuinely apologized to Craig. And what's really sad is we have this moment that just crushed my heart. Like, really crushed it. So he's letting Rebecca know how I felt that night. He's all like, it's actually kind of funny because the night of the wedding, the reason why I was driving drunk and I got a DWI charge is because I was driving to you. Because I was about to tell you that I loved you. And that just broke my heart because her face. Whenever she realized that Greg loved her and she has let it slip away, that broke me. That broke my heart right there. And of course he said, but it doesn't matter now because you're with Josh, and I don't want anything to, and I know how much you love him, and you came here for him, and you deserve to be happy, because I knew at the very first moment I met you that you were into him, but the funny thing is that I liked you because you weren't into me, and I really think I need to focus on me right now, and that just blew me away, and I love how honest this conversation is. Because it's really brutal, and it's really honest, and it really gets to the point to everything that went on in the relationship. This is how breakup talks or closure talk should go. So we go to Paula and Rebecca finally writes her the letter of recommendation she's been asking for, which really made me glad. Because I didn't think she would write it. I think she would totally forget about it and be immersed in her own thing, but she wrote it, and she apologizes to Paula about it, saying she should have wrote it earlier, because this is what Paula deserves, and she's been a horrible friend to Paula, and she's gonna work on that, and I'm glad how these characters are really maturing, and I'm still waiting for Valencia and Josh to really have that conversation. I don't know if Valencia is gonna be in this season, but I really hope she is so Josh could at least have some backlash about how he treated her when they were in a relationship, because honestly, he really fucked her over, and I'm really sad about that. So we go back to this final scene, and I really love this final scene because it's really a turning point for Rebecca and how she views her relationship with Josh. So she comes back, and of course, Josh is playing a video game, and he asks her if she wants to join him for a video game. And she's like, no, I'm not really in the mood for video games. And then she turns, she's about to walk away, and then she flips back around and says, you know what, I actually really don't like video games. I lied about it to you, and I apologize for that. And she's trying to be this big person, and Josh brings up the ping pong thing. Like, oh, so just like how you lied about ping pong? And then she's all like, I think Rebecca, that is just the pushing point for Rebecca, and it's all out from there. She mentions, why do you think I did that? I did that so I could spend time with you, because it's not like you're actually my boyfriend, and it's like other stuff. And as a matter of fact, you do live here. You're just too afraid to admit it. And here's Rebecca going like, I don't deserve this. I deserve better. Better than I've been treated. I'm being treated, and she's really empowering herself. Like, hey, I'm with this guy who's just using me, and I feel really used. Really used, so I'm gonna tell him, and I'm not gonna take it anymore. And of course, it's like this ultimatum, like, you better start treating me better, and I really like that. I really love this season, and I really appreciate the honesty this season brings. And of course, we go to the final scene, and the final scene really crushes me too, because as soon as Josh and Rebecca are done fighting, because she's just had enough of Josh's shit, honestly. She goes to her room, pulls out her drawer, and there is Greg's sweater right there. Right there. And she gets Greg's sweater, and she goes to her bed and starts hugging it. Because of course she misses Greg, because Greg actually really treats her like a decent human being. More than Josh does. And I really love that about her relationship with Greg. And I can't wait to see what next week brings. I can't wait to see how they're gonna handle this love triangle. Of course, Greg has to get better first. I think Greg is actually gonna reject Rebecca for a while because he has to work on focusing more on himself and his alcoholism. So I'm really glad. I'm just really glad that they're being more serious this season with these situations. And I really love this season. And I hope you guys too. And I hope you guys have a really nice Halloween. And I can't wait to see you guys next week. So I will leave it at that. And I will bid you adieu. Bye.